Hey everybody, it's Sam Culper from Forward Observer. I know some people were complaining about the audio quality and the wind noise, and so I went out and bought a microphone for my iPhone. Hopefully the audio is a bit better. It's been a while. It's been a long time. I've been extremely busy. I have not forgotten about YouTube. I've wanted to record a video, and I tell you, it's just been real busy. So I want to talk to you about a few things. First of all, I went out a few weeks ago to prepper camp, which is a great time. I tell you, it's great for me because I get to go out there and I get to teach intelligence, and I get to change. The best part about some of the things that I teach at prepper camp is this paradigm shift, right? That's in my main talk, SHTF intelligence. That's my main goal, is to give people a paradigm shift, that if you have not already understood the value of intelligence, especially the value of real-time intelligence, then you will by the end of that talk. And that's a promise I made to everyone who sat through all three of those classes, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and a mission accomplished. I think a lot of people came up to me afterwards and they're like, I never even considered using intelligence, never considered that a skill to develop or concept to investigate in terms of preparedness. And I'm glad that they've had this paradigm shift, because we can do an area study and we can figure out exactly what we need to be preparing for. We can look at all the 6 layers of the operating environment and say, okay, these things could break, these things could go wrong. Start looking at second and third order effects and basically just kind of build out like a flow chart of sorts. And and then when we talk about EMP, we talk about economic collapse, we talk about whatever floats your boat, whatever scenario really concerns you. Then we can take that national level or global strategic level event and figure out, okay, here are the tactical level implications. Here are the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth order effects of this thing that's, maybe affects the whole country. So at any rate, number one, area studies, you got to do them. And Matter of Fact's podcast. I think I'm going to be on this podcast. Actually, I got to talk. But another great thing about prepper camp is that I get to meet new friends. And so these guys, Andrew, Phil, and I think Matt, who run Matter of Fact's podcast, I got to schedule a date. But great guys. I mean, just incredibly nice, awesome dudes. When you talk about tribe, I wish these guys lived in Texas, because I want them in my tribe. All right. So great guys. And thanks again, y'all, for your hospitality. And also to Win. Win brought some bear meat. That's the first time I've ever had bear. It was very good. It was delicious. All right, so I want to talk about 3 things: night vision, area study live, and some Skillz stuff. I tell you, night vision is a game changer. So recently, speaking of new friends, I've started hog hunting with some new friends, and those guys are awesome too. And I've had this FLIR, a thermal FLIR unit, for years. I don't know, 5 or 10 years. It's so old that it's been discontinued, but it still works really well. Especially for coming from a position of it's dark outside and I don't know anything, but I've got this old FLIR unit, and now I can see that's an armadillo, or that's a deer, or that's a hog, or whatever. So we scout these things with thermal, and then we flip to night vision once we find them. Then we flip to night vision, and we walk in on them, we stalk them, and it's a heck of a time, man. It's a lot of fun. Last night we saw a coyote that was stalking some deer. And it's pretty amazing, all the stuff that, on a night you go outside and you look at the stars, and there's like a whole another world out there that you don't see because it's dark. And so I guess the overall message is this: it's like, yeah, we use night vision for hog hunting, but man, if there's ever some Mad Max, and it actually doesn't even have to be a Mad Max scenario, the stuff that goes bump in the night, man, get your battle belt, flip your NVGs on, and and you can really easily see what it is. I'll talk about that a little bit later in this video because that's one of the things that we talked about. At any rate, so I went ahead and made the decision. I'm just going to buy a pair of night vision goggles. Those guys out there were letting me use a pair of their PVS 7s. And man, it is just an incredible game changer. So at any rate, I called up my friend Bob Griswold at Ready-Made Resources, readymaderesources.com, and I said, look, I got to get some NVGs, man. And so he hooked me up on a pair, and they'll be coming next month. So I'm going to do a whole video on night vision because it's just, man, it's made hog hunting at night so much easier, number one. And then number two, if we do get into a scenario where I need to see in the dark, it is the advantages you have of being able to see in the dark versus someone who can't see in the dark is just absolutely incredible. So, if you're concerned about SHTF or the Boogaloo or whatever, it's like, well, get some night vision goggles, dude. All right, that's number one. The second thing is Area Study Live. So on Tuesday, October 15th, we are going to start the next Area Study Live class. That is where you meet with Charlie Hogwood and I for 1 hour a week for 4 weeks. We go through, we build out our area study, and if you want an expedited way and expert instruction along the way as you build out your area study and you've been putting it off or you got questions, you get stuck or whatever, guys, sign up for Area Study Live. You can build one alongside us, and in 30 days, as long as you dedicate some time to actually go get this information, 30 days, your area study is going to be done. At least 50 to 80% solution. And, and then that's really going to allow you to home in on exactly what you need to be preparing for. My fear is that a lot of people in this preparedness community are preparing for the wrong things, or they don't understand the follow-on effects. They say, what are you preparing? I ask, what are you preparing for? And they say, I'm preparing for an EMP. Well, no, you're really not. What you should be preparing for are the follow-on effects. You take that EMP and then you say, okay, how is this going to affect my neighborhood, like my neighbors and my street, my block, my town, or county, and once we understand that, then we can be very specific and very deliberate with how we need to prepare for those things. Like my Fruit Loop of a cousin he lives in southern Georgia. He bought a Barrett M82. It's a 50 caliber rifle, and he bought it so he could be prepared for SHTF. And I'm like, dude, what's the longest shot? Let's just say on a deer, what's the longest shot you've ever taken? He's like, I don't know, maybe like 100, 200 yards. Because it's South Georgia and there's just super dense forest. I'm like, okay, during SHTF, what's the longest shot you're probably going to take? Okay, yeah, about the same, 200 yards. Why are you buying an M82 when you could have bought a few AR-15s or whatever, right? So really, the whole message is once we actually understand our mission, we do an area study. We look at the threats. We understand what our mission, what our SHTF mission is actually going to be at a local level, i.e., not responding to EMP, but responding to the very specific effects of EMP locally. And then after we had this conversation, he's kind of like, oh, yeah, I probably should not have bought this M82 because I will probably never use it. Yeah, probably not, dude. All right, so at any rate, Area Study Live, you can go to areastudylive.com. We have a few more seats in this October class. I think Charlie's going to run another one in November, and we'll be back on another YouTube video to talk about Charlie. Good dude, fellow Army veteran, and he brings a lot to the table that I do not. All right, and then the third thing I want to talk about is Skillz. So last night I was talking to a guy that I actually just met him a few weeks ago, and very knowledgeable guy in terms on firearms and tactics, and we're talking about Skillz. And we were kind of, I don't know, we weren't really complaining. We're just pointing out a lot of guys spend a lot of time on guns, right? And they drop in this new trigger and they get this new, this ACOG, and they get this RMR, and they get all these things, and they trick out their AR-15s, and, and that's all fine and well. The problem is that, okay, even if you become an expert on running a firearms platform, you also have to develop other skills. And we were talking about how many people come through their tactical they run a tactical shop and basically a training company. They offer a bunch of training, and he's we were talking about how many people come through and they get that firearms training and then they don't get any medical training, like not even basic first aid. But everyone kind of needs TCCC. It's like we were talking last night, if your buddy takes a round, in some Mad Max worst case scenario, what are you going to do? It's like, well, you're probably going to let him bleed to death because you don't know how to fix a sucking chest wound. And so that is, that's kind of the thing. It's like we can't spend all our time on firearms and tricking out our guns. We also have to learn complementary skills. And obviously, I'm surprised too, how many guys show up at the range or go to firearms training or go hog hunting and they don't have now almost everybody last night had a tourniquet and an IFAK, but how many guys show up at the range, they don't carry a tourniquet with them? And how many people just completely overlook this medical aspect because they haven't quite fit their heads around this concept that actually if you get into a gunfight, it's a two-way range, and maybe the guy on the other side of the range is better than you, faster than you, more accurate than you, and so probably looking into tactical medical skills is a worthy pursuit. But I would also say this on the intelligence side. The great thing I think about intelligence is that it can be done passively. It should be done passively, basically around the clock. The irony, we talk about Iraq and Afghanistan, the irony kind of intelligence is that the frontline troops, infantry guys or soft teams or whoever, they're the ones who need the intelligence, right? As an intelligence analyst or intel NCO or contractor, I didn't create intelligence for myself. I can't use it. It's like, okay, the actual intelligence is absolutely worthless to me. The people who need it are the frontline guys. And so we say intelligence drives the fight. Well, as an analyst, I'm not doing the fighting, but I'm trying to give the best available intelligence to those frontline guys, to these ODAs, to say, hey, look, you're going into this valley, you're going into this district or this village or whatever. Here's what you can expect, right? We've been taking signals intercepts, we've been getting HUMINT reports, we've been, we got drone video, we looked at all this stuff. We're trying to compile all this information and produce an intelligence to say, look, here, this is the absolute best understanding of the area that we can provide you. And now you understand how many Taliban there might be in this area and how well armed they might be, and X, Y, and Z. Hopefully lots of good intelligence that we can provide them. So the irony is that they're the only ones who can use it, and many times they're the first to actually go collect it. And so that's just a roundabout saying of, hey, if you're preparing to be a gunfighter, you have to know intelligence as well. You have to know what your intelligence gaps are. You have to know what your intelligence requirements are. You are a collector. We said in the Army, every soldier is a sensor, and that means that every single soldier who is on the ground, well, basically anywhere, has a fundamental obligation to gather information and to report information that may have some intelligence value. If something doesn't seem right, if something doesn't look right, if something doesn't feel right, obviously that stuff gets reported. But, you do a key leader engagement, or you do some tactical questioning, and you talk to local people, and they may have something very important to say, right? They may have a piece of information that they report that has intelligence value. And if that doesn't get fed back into the system, if that doesn't make it back to the analyst, because, PFC Joe Snuffy or, whoever's doing the TQ doesn't understand, well, it probably wouldn't be PFC Joe Snuffy, but Sergeant so-and-so, if he doesn't understand what intelligence value is, if he doesn't understand this concept of intelligence, and that villager says something very important and it doesn't make it back into this intelligence ecosystem, if it doesn't get put into the intelligence cycle, then that's a huge missed opportunity. So really the overall thing is like, all these gunfighters and they're doing this and that and, preparing for SHTF and Boogaloo and all this stuff. Okay, that's great. You got to start developing some complementary skills, and obviously medical, everyone's got to get medical. And I think to a certain level, everyone has to get intelligence training as well. because, again, the great irony, the guys who are out on the front lines are the guys who need the intelligence, and they're the ones who are most likely to gather certain intelligence. They're going to be the first ones to gather certain pieces of intelligence. So every member of your community security team, every member of your prepper group, every member of your whatever neighborhood watch, whatever you have, is an intelligence collector, should be an intelligence collector. The more sensors we have as a group, the better off we are going to be, because that starts to expand our access to information. And more information we have coming in, probably the better and more intelligence we're going to be able to push back out. So all this stuff is a team effort. And so, really this is to say, as a guy who runs intelligence, A, for a living, but B, preparing to run intelligence in a worst case scenario, I got to make sure everyone understands what intelligence is. Everyone understands the concept of intelligence value, and they know what our requirements are. They know, hey, this piece of information right here has intelligence value. I need to make sure that gets back to Sam, or I need to make sure that gets back to our ace, or I need to make sure that gets back to whatever Intel guy or Intel element or Intel team that you may be running. Frankly, if you have guys in the field, you've got to have intelligence, man. You got to have somebody who's providing kind of this information overwatch, who can answer questions, because you're out in the field, man. You don't have time to say, oh, hey, let's pull over here and let's get on Google and figure out whatever situation there might be. You can't collect signals intelligence at the same time you're trying to fight a battle. Actually, I was talking to this guy from 7th Group not too long ago, 7th Special Forces Group, and he said, on the average day, we only spend 2 or 3, maybe 3 hours max of actual trigger time on any average day, like 1 to 2 hours, maybe 3 max. And it's like, well, what are you doing the rest of the time? Well, the rest of the time they're training people, they're trying to gather intelligence, they're building indigenous forces and trying to build their capacity up. So all that is to say, we've got to be developing the skill. I hate to beat a dead horse, but I'm just saying, look, you need intelligence. You have to have a certain level of intelligence understanding. So keep watching these videos. I hope I didn't just beat that horse into a million pieces. But I wanted to get something out on YouTube. Guys, thanks for watching. I still have a Patreon. Actually, next week, this coming week, I'm going to do a Patreon viewers only live stream, live Q&A. Ask me anything. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And now that I'm back and settled in, I'm going to start doing some more YouTube videos. I got a whole laundry list of YouTube videos to make. So thanks if you're one of the few people who got on me about not making videos, thanks. You're responsible for the production of this video. So, that's all I have. Until next time, stay out front.